Some pets are not just animals. They're family and soulmates. Some cats learn to call you mom, and when they die in your hands, a part of your heart dies with them. This is the story of Shawarma, the cat who called me Ma. Shawarma was never just a cat. He was a memory. He was comfort. He was love. He was the son of Mera, the beautiful Persian cat whose story I shared in my very first upload. For those who don't know, Mera didn't abandon her kittens. She just never came home one day. She was hit by a car right outside our home. She left behind 3 tiny kittens. Shawarma, the eldest. Sayamai, the youngest. And another sibling who would later be known as Siopo, the one who stayed with me. At just 4 weeks old, they were already motherless. A month after Mera's death, someone messaged me. They were looking for female cats to adopt. Siomai was female, and we thought Shawarma was too, so I gave them both away. I felt at ease. Honestly, the adopters already had other cats, so I believed they would be in good hands. A month later, I found out the truth. Shawarma was actually a male. Because of that, he was passed on again, given away by the first adopter to someone else. At first, I tried not to think about it. I told myself he was fine. Until I started seeing the posts online. Complaints about him? He doesn't eat fish. He only eats chicken. He only wants wet food and dry food. That's when fear crept in. Fear that Shawarma would be given away again. Fear that he'd be abandoned, thrown outside to fend for himself. Fear that he'd end up on the streets, just like his mother. I couldn't stand it. I immediately called the person who had him. I pleaded with him, if you can't take care of him, please, let me take him back. When Shawarma finally returned home, he seemed so lost. He kept searching for something familiar, his little head turning this way and that. And then he saw Sayapao, his brother, the one who had stayed with me since they were kittens. And just like that, it was as if nothing had ever changed. They were together again. From that day on, our home was filled with so much joy. Shawarma grew up to be the most incredible cat. He was so playful and extremely affectionate. Every night, he'd sleep right beside me. He'd make biscuits on my chest, massaging me with his tiny paws. He was so clean, never peeing anywhere around the room. Whenever I called his name, he would come running. He'd greet me at the door every single day when I came home from work, meowing until I picked him up and carried him. And then there was something else. Something truly special. When he wanted to lie beside me, or when he was hungry and wanted food, he would look at me and softly call out, "Mom." It didn't sound like a normal meow. It sounded like a child calling for his mother. Because of the unconditional love Shawarma gave me, I made him a promise. When I finally go home for good to the Philippines, I told him, "You're coming with me." That was how much he meant to me. It was my son. When Shawarma and Sayopao turned 1 year old, the person who was caring for their sister Sayomai messaged me again. She told me Sayomai had given birth, and there was only 1 male kitten in the litter. I knew I had to take him in. I named him Sushi. At first, Sayapa was extremely protective of me. He'd get jealous if Shawarma got too close. Shawarma, being the gentle soul he was, would always wait patiently, giving Sayapo his space. But as Sushi grew bigger, he started bonding more and more with Shawarma. They became inseparable. And during mealtimes, I noticed the most amazing thing. Shawarma would refuse to eat until both Sayapao and Sushi had finished their food first. That was Shawarma. Gentle, responsible, selfless. He was the big brother. In the 2 years and 3 months we were together, I started to notice something. As Shawarma got older, he seemed to get sick easily. There were times when he would drool a lot, his gums would get red, and he'd sound congested. But then, after a day or two, he'd be perfectly fine again. Back to his sweet, affectionate self. Then came December. Winter began. The drooling became more frequent. It would disappear for a few days, then return again. A week before Christmas, it happened again. On December 23rd, Shawarma was unusually affectionate. He spent the whole day sleeping on my chest, asking for pets. He was so quiet and peaceful. On December 24th, around 1 in the morning, I had this strange feeling. It was like he was silently asking me, take pictures of me. So I did. The photos were so beautiful. He looked so gentle, even in his rest. The next morning, I found vomit near the bed. He was drooling again, his mouth pressed right against his water bowl as if he couldn't get enough. I cleaned everything up. I thought, just like all the other times, he would recover. I really believed he would be okay. Then, Christmas Day arrived. I decided to stay home with Sayapao, sushi, and shawarma. Throughout the day, shawarma would vomit from time to time, and then he would just go back to sleep. I wasn't too worried. It seemed like just another one of his episodes. At 6 p.m., I fell asleep after preparing their food. I suddenly woke up at 9 p.m. I heard a noise. Something falling. Primera l'October. And shawarma wasn't in his bed. I checked the balcony, and there he was. Shawarma was convulsing. He was on the floor, struggling to breathe. I grabbed him immediately. There was feces. There was drool everywhere. I was crying, trying to wipe him clean. I started trying to pump his chest, trying to help him breathe. Then suddenly, he vomited something that smelled and looked exactly like feces. And then, he stopped breathing. I kept pumping his chest. I didn't care about the mess. I didn't care about the dirt. I just kept begging him. Wake up, please. Wake up. His little tongue came out. His lips started turning violet. The only sound left was the gurgle of phlegm in his throat. And then, silence. Shawarma died right there in my hands. On Christmas night. The cat Mara left behind for me. The cat who changed my life. The cat whose heart was kinder and purer than most humans' Ibia Berknauen. Even now, with Sayapao and Sushi still here with me, I still find myself looking for him. I miss his affection. I miss his presence. I miss his little voice calling out, Emma, and the pain didn't end there. I wanted to give Shawarma a proper burial, a place where he could rest, but there was no soil. Everything outside is concrete. There was nowhere to bury him. In the end, with a completely broken heart, I had to wrap my sweet boy in plastic and place him in the garbage bin outside. That moment shattered what was left of me. Love isn't measured by how long someone stays in your life, but by how deeply they change it. Sometimes, the ones we call pets are the very ones who save us when we are silently breaking. Have you ever loved a pet this deeply? What is something they did that you will never, ever forget? Share your stories in the comments below. Thank you for listening.